I just hate that. I hate what it's doing to churches.
I hate what it's doing at the conference.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all this is ending up in is division, and you can blame whoever you want.
Yeah,
That's the result.
I hate that happened. I got a text today from someone that was talking about how a church in our area disaffiliated a while ago, and they technically were released on Saturday, and then they voted to join the Global Methodist Church, and they got 90%. Great thing. What irritates me about that in ministry is Hi, I'm Parker Miley.
I'm Tim Benjamin.
In this camera, every time we turn it on,
it changes.
It zooms in.
Yeah, it zooms in somehow, and both our heads get cut off.
And then I realize how big my nose is. So, anyways, this is the Rage Podcast, and this is Tim Benjamin,
and I'm Parker Miley,
and this is Parker Miley. And today, I think we're just going to have a kind of reflection upon thoughts of a situation that's been going on for 50 plus years and has really been on the rise, especially over this weekend for us United Methodist folks, and even those who are not United Methodist. I feel like every clergy person I talk to, at least Protestant clergy person I talk to, knows about what's going on in the UMC. Yeah. And I'm sure you do all as well, because we've been trying to keep you informed here at the Rage Podcast. But over this weekend on Saturday, was a special session of the annual conference. What was interesting about this is Bishop Palmer has only had to ever call one other time in his career. And how long has he been bishop?
He's coming up on I think he's at the end of his second tenure.
So is that eight years at least?
At least 8 years, yeah.
At least 8 years. I think more than that.
Yeah, I think it has been more than that.
This is the second time he only ever had to call a special session of the annual conference. The other one was there was some gerrymandering going on, is what he said, about how West Ohio and East Ohio were going on, and they needed to have a special session but actually, then we have another one coming up in February, another special session. So Bishop Palmer's career, and he's retiring as the end of his term this year, and that means he's going out kind of with a bang, I guess.
Yeah, probably not the one he wanted.
Yeah, certainly not. And my heart goes out to Bishop Palmer and to just the entire staff and our GSs and everything that.
Yeah, who all deserve better than this.
Who really, who I just hate to see that they are because they are really getting the bad end of this stick that we're playing with. They're the ones that are filing all this paperwork. They're the ones that are getting all the blame,
overseeing
for everything,
overseeing
the meetings,
answering the angry questions.
And you know what? I really feel bad because I question, at least for our GSs, I don't think they had anything to do with that. I think they're in the same position kind of as me and Tim. They had nothing to do with this. They don't even have that say on that global scale, and it's it's horrible what's happening.
And just to be clear, because we're kind of talking around the issue, we're talking about the disaffiliation. That's what took place over this past weekend. The first round of disaffiliation happened.
Second
round. The second round? Oh yeah, there was a couple, but this is the first major one.
Yeah.
And I forgot about that one. The 80 churches go out over the weekend, which means we lost. Parker and I were figuring it up, and they were right. 8% of the churches in West Ohio have disaffiliated, and we know there are enough. Well, in fact, I think all the churches are talking about it now. Obviously, they're not all going to disaffiliate, but that conversation is definitely going around, and it's going to be more churches go.
And here's so I am as I work here at Wayne Street. I'm also the pastor of Walnut Grove, which is a small but mighty country church out on the
doing great things.
North side of St. Mary's, which I'm very proud of. Love my Walnut Grove family. And we were one of those churches that were given permission to leave. I mean, and I think we can explain a little bit more about that.
That's true. That's what happened, yeah.
And so I just kind of want to explain the process to you, because maybe you're not a United Methodist, but you'd love to know what's going on and why this is becoming such a horrendous problem for United Methodists. And I think the problem lies in the process. The problem really does lie in the process.
Yeah.
So my church, Walnut Grove, we had to hold a charge conference. A charge conference take place at the local church level.
And what Parker's going to outline here, just to make sure we're clear, is that this is the disaffiliation process.
Yes.
A lot of people are wondering, what stage are we in and what happens next. Parker's been through it. We here at Wayne Street are, fighting our way through it now. But he's going to be able to walk you through the end. So go ahead.
So at Walnut Grove, we had to obviously discern. All right, that goes without saying. You have to discern where the Lord is calling you, what it is that's taking place, and what's going to be the best fit for your congregation. Because we cannot compare, and this is the problem I think we have in larger denominations, we can't compare every church as if they're the same. Wayne Street, I can absolutely not compare to Walnut Grove, even though we may have some of the very same similar beliefs.
Yeah,
you cannot
share family members.
Yeah, you cannot compare the culture and the workings of two churches.
Yeah, and these are churches that are what, 4 miles apart or less? Yeah. I mean, you think about what the difference would be from a church here and then Parker's church at Walnut Grove and then a church in downtown Toledo. We're going to be very different.
So anyway, so you have to discern, and I'm not saying, some churches I feel like you'll have to stay in the United Methodist Church. That's what you're going to find in your discernment. And I'm not bashing anyone that finds that path.
No.
Not bashing at all. This is just where Walnut Grove decided it was being called to go. So through their discernment process, they figured out it's time to leave. It is time to depart ways from the United Methodist Church. And that means then I contacted my DS calling for a special charge conference. A charge conference, as I mentioned earlier, takes place at the local church level, takes place at Walnut Grove, or say it takes place at Wayne Street. Tim just had his charge conference. They happen yearly, or you can call them at any given moment.
Yeah, obviously the charge conference we had was our regular charge conference.
Not dealing with disaffiliation.
Right.
Charge conferences can be called by a pastor, by the church board, or 10% of the church congregation. At Walnut Grove, it was very simple to have all three happen in one moment because my board is practically the entire church. So, we hit all three targets, and the conference was called. Then a representative who was a retired DS, Tim was able to work alongside him. I never knew him, but he came in and he kind of overseed our charge conference. And the charge conference had the purpose of taking 2 votes. One was the vote to decide to disaffiliate, and we got 20 votes. There were 20 people in that meeting, and it was all unanimous. The second vote was for our legal representative. Through the disaffiliation process, once you get through that voting season, you need to select someone from your congregation to technically be the person that has to sign their name on everything.
Okay, let me ask a question before you go on. Who gets to vote? Explain that. Who's allowed to vote?
Only members of Walnut Grove Church.
And one of the steps in the process is you have to verify that. And, obviously when Parker's saying in a smaller congregation, it's a lot easier to verify than at Wayne Street, where we have a lot of verification needs to happen.
And what I will say, though, and the reason I didn't mention that is because it's not actually as big of a deal as people have made it out to be. I was in that charge conference, and again, I wasn't allowed to vote because I'm not a member of Walnut Grove. I will be able to vote here at Wayne Street, I believe. But anyways, at Walnut Grove, there was a person that came through, and again, it was super easy. I was able to read everyone's name, and I was like, oh, these are all members that are here. I know these people. I know their family. They're either, if I don't know them, they're a granddaughter of a member who was confirmed a couple years ago and just is at college and hasn't come back or anything, whatever it is, Small church, it was easy. There was one person, however, attends every Sunday. Her children are members. Her husband's a member. But she did not get on that roll somehow. During that meeting, I was able to verify that this person was a member, and they were able to vote that day. So
it's a paperwork error is what it was.
Paperwork error. Yeah. So the pastor, and Pastor Tim being the senior pastor here at Wayne Street, has that authority to make technically anyone a member in his given notice. Obviously, he might have some different beliefs upon doing that as my standard.
Again, that's why we hope to not have that happen here by verifying the membership. And again, Parker's right. It's not that big of a deal, but it is a step you have to take.
Yeah, so that is a step.
And the reason I wanted that pointed out is that's where we are at Wayne Street.
Yeah, that's why we are updating our membership rolls, getting your address too, so we can send you birthday cards. All right, there's more than one. All right, I hate how we've made everything about disaffiliation.
Yes, we're actually trying to do ministry here.
We're also trying to send birthday cards, stay in contact with you people, but
and again. I laugh at that, but that's the important thing here. Ministry is where we want to end up because that's what we're about. Yeah. We're not about quitting the United Methodist Church.
And that was a big thing about Walnut Grove. We wanted to continue to do ministry, and we're sick and tired of talking about it. And the best way to stop talking about it was just get out of it. That was really where we were at.
I've been a pastor for 25 years, and it comes up every year.
Yep. And so anyway, we have that vote, and it all went through unanimous, and we voted our legal representative in the
At Walnut Grove.
Walnut Grove.
Yeah.
And
we're kind of jumping back and forth.
Yeah. And the legal representative, signed all the paperwork that was needed, and we had we still haven't paid our dues, and I'll explain the payment method. We had a rough estimate number of what will be due, and I should be getting an email today, but knowing the conference, it could probably be 7 months from now before I get that email. Actually, no, emails come on time. It's figuring out what to do with that email. Where that makes a
not
long
bitter
process.
at all, are you?
I'm not bitter.
Okay.
I'm just being absolute honest. And if you can't agree with me on that, Tim,
I'm pleading the fifth.
Oh, pleading the fifth.
Yeah.
That means he agrees.
It means I'm not incriminating myself on camera.
Yeah, Tim's technically still in.
Yeah,
so,
to be nice.
So we see the money estimate of money that will be due and all these things, and we wait. So we did that in October, early October. So we waited until this Saturday. Today is Monday, so 2 days ago, and we were finally granted permission to leave. And when I say granted permission, clergy and laity delegates of the annual conference collected their votes together to either say, yes, these churches can go, or there was the option that they could have said no, and I really want to know what would happen.
Yeah, I don't know what happens if they say no.
Because that was what's so bizarre. I wanted to know. I was interested because if they said no, were they going to hold us at gunpoint then?
Yeah.
I mean, I think our relationship would be pretty sour with one another. But I don't know what happens. And I was reading actually in Arkansas, they did vote no, and those churches were not able to disaffiliate.
I heard there was trouble, but I hadn't heard what came out of that.
From what, again, there's just so much chaos going on in the UMC, and if you're trying to figure out any news about the United Methodist Church from the United Methodist Church, you're going to have to open up 7 tabs before you can get to the real one that's going to give you any information. But from what I heard, at least a rumor, I'll say it's a rumor, that Arkansas had more no votes.
Well, what they did was they voted on each church individually, and they were given speeches for and against. And as you can imagine, that
is super bad idea.
Yeah, it's all hearsay. I didn't see it, but that's what I heard happen.
But anyways, but let's explain a little bit more about how this annual conference works. So Tim has been is a guaranteed member at annual conference since he's a clergy. He's an elder. All right, his fancy titles. And I am a lowlife that is a lay delegate.
He's a lowlife and a lay delegate. Yeah. I just want to point that out.
And I've been in the annual conference, I think, for 3 years now as a lay delegate.
Yep.
3 years.
And representing Wayne Street.
Wayne Street, on that scale. I am Wayne Street's lay delegate. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so I've been able to...
We actually have a couple of them.
Yeah. So I've been able to experience annual conference in the virtual realm. And even actually before it was virtual, I went to annual conference because I'm a nerd and I love to see the workings of the church. And... any excuse to go to Lakeside.
Yeah, but, right. There's an amen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've seen how it works, and with this voting process, it is so I had a vote, and Tim had a vote. Mm-hmm. And now let's picture ourselves as if we were in Arkansas, and Tim lived more than just 4 miles away from Walnut Grove, and he had no clue who the pastor was or any of the people out there. Wayne Street and Walnut Grove know each other quite well, all right? We know each other. And but say we didn't, that means Tim would have a say as to whether or not Walnut Grove can leave or not. And Tim could say, you know what? I hate that name, Walnut Grove. Yeah. I'm going to make them stay.
Well, yeah. Or I could say, I don't want anybody to disaffiliate. I'm going to vote against everybody. Yep. I mean, I could have done that too.
Yeah, he could have. And I'm sure some people had that way of logic.
I'm absolutely sure that happened. Yes. Yeah. And the problem is with lumping the 80 together the way West Ohio did, I don't know what other way you could have done that, because what that allowed is it allowed the conversation to happen over everybody. So it wasn't Walnut Grove and a big thing directed that. It was everybody together.
And then they would have had the confusion because both Walnut Grove Auglays and Walnut Grove Harding
there's a couple of Walnut Groves out there.
But anyways, it's that was difficult. But that happened all on Saturday, and everyone was released from what I believe. Now the process begins of getting all the other paperwork finished out now, because they technically got their side of it together when we had ours done in October. Yeah. And so now we're working on actually legally leaving is what's happening now. And I still don't know what that process is going to look like.
Yeah, but essentially what's going to happen is Walnut Grove is going to get a new name. It'll still be Walnut Grove, but it'll be Walnut Grove.
Well, our new name's already in effect, Walnut Grove Church.
Yeah, well, we're going to be Wayne Street Church. I mean, that's the way it's going to end up.
Makes sense, right?
It's what we've been called for a long time. Yeah. So. And but that's what we're looking at, and that's what it looks like then for churches to be independent. Now, whether we join the GMC or go independent, again, at least for Wayne Street's end of that, we're still looking at it.
Now that I explained that process, I want to hit at that. Okay. I got a text today from someone that was talking about how a church in our area disaffiliated a while ago, and they technically were released on Saturday, and then they voted to join the Global Methodist Church, and they got 90%. Great thing. What irritates me about that in ministry is, well, way to go, you just ticked off another 10% of your congregation for a second vote. I just hate that. Mm-hmm. I hate what it's doing to churches.
I hate what it's doing at the conference.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all this is ending up in this division, and you can blame whoever you want. Yeah, that's the result.
I hate that happened. When I hate that I saw, and yes, I'm using the word hate, I'm sorry. When I saw that, the first thing that popped in my mind, I was like, that's 10% of that church that's ticked off again, you know?
And or ticked off more, probably.
Even more. And so it's horrible. It's horrible to see what's happening at the local church level. It's horrible to see what's happening to the great institution that was known as the United Methodist Church over such a cause as this, over something that should have never made this fire this big.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
We had very clear instructions and things, and we decided to I don't know, be progressive, I guess. But at the end of the day, what this is about for me personally is about ministry. What does ministry look like, and how do we want to be represented, and what do we want to be aligned with? You know, and I decided, you know, because I've been praying about this for as long as I've known this is coming, which has been a couple years. I didn't know it was going to be this direction, but I knew this was coming, and I've been praying about this. And I decided at the end of the day, when I read what Jesus says, he makes it very clear: don't hurt kids. Period. I mean, that's one of the most clearest instructions he said. Remember what he said?
Better to drown.
Better to drown. You're better off drowned than hurting kids.
Yep.
I think that's pretty clear. And to me, some of these, the sexualization of everything on earth, that is not helping kids.
It's not. Yeah.
And no one can make the argument it is. And that's what I want to tell everybody, is that's why I'm leaving, because I want this conversation to stop. I don't care what we decide. Leave the kids alone.
Yeah, that's what's bizarre about this whole thing. And our whole society, as a matter of fact, is for the longest time, everyone knew there were things that were appropriate to share with children and things that weren't appropriate to share with children.
We have forgotten that.
From me being a kid, when my parents were watching a movie and me taking the blanket over my eyes when the bad scene came on.
Or my dad hitting the fast forward thing and blipping things out. Exactly. I remember all that.
Exactly. But that is so gone. And as a result of that, I'm in the same boat here with Tim, and I hope many are with me, that we cannot be doing this to children, and that we cannot be allowing those type of things. That's probably the number one reason we have a problem here. But that's not what no one's going to tell you that. No media source is going to tell you that. They're going to tell you that the problem with the United Methodist Church is that there are those who, and they're going to use that word, hate the LGBTQ and not. And that's so far from the truth of what's actually happening in this conference and in these churches.
Because if somebody was trying to indoctrinate kids of a young age into a heterosexual practice, I wouldn't want that either. So I don't understand why we don't want to talk to kids about this stuff. It just frustrates me that we even have to decide whether or not to do that.
Why would I?
It should be illegal. You should go to jail for pushing that stuff on kids.
Think about it. I mean, it's not even the problem that it's a homosexual relationship that some people are pushing on them. It's why are you talking about that to kids, to children?
Yes. That has to stop.
Let them get to middle school health and figure it out that way. I mean, it's
Wait till they have at least some kind of faculties to understand what we're talking about.
Why on earth are we talking to children, to kids K through 5
who are already confused?
Yeah.
And now we're not giving them any answers. We're giving them more questions.
It's just
no way, guys.
So that's the problem. That's really probably that's number one, probably out of all of the list of probably many problems that result from that.
Yeah. In this whole thing, I only have two things I'm asking, and I would let this go. First thing is, don't push sexual indoctrination on kids. Period. Okay, that can happen. Second thing is, don't change the definition of marriage. If you want to bring two people together for whatever purpose, look, you do you. But at the end of the day, don't call it marriage, because that's not what it is. You can't take 6 people and call it a football team. The same way you can't take 2 men and call it a marriage. I'm sorry, that's not what it is. And if you want to have some kind of legal expression of that, fine. You know, I don't think it's a good idea, but if that's what you want to do, fine. But don't make the churches recognize it, and don't make society recognize it. Just allow us to keep the words meaning what they've always meant.
Don't quit trying to force everyone to agree with you.
Yeah. Because I'm never going to agree to it. That's the problem.
There's people. There's a guy on. I watch his TikToks. He has his TikTok lives practically every night, and I watch him. I don't agree with a lot of the things I say, but I listen to him because he is a man that is full of. He's about love, all right, and in a genuine sense, saying these trolls and people that are going to say nothing but hate and all these things. I can agree with that. Yeah, there's no reason you need people walking around making, slight punches at each other. That's not appropriate. Stop it. And I'll listen to him for that reason. I don't agree with the guy, but I'm not going to say, hey, you're this, or, try to bully him, right? Nobody
has ever won an argument by calling people names.
Absolutely.
Never in the history of the world, and it's not going to happen here.
But that's what I think so many people have resulted to. They have turned to the fact that
it's both sides. This is a both sides thing.
Don't accept, celebrate, and love me no matter where I'm in, well, then I have to hate you. A lot of hate in this world. A lot of hate in this world.
All of it's wrong.
I think of the words of Phil Robertson, all right? Duck Dynasty. Keep life simple. We've certainly have failed miserably at that.
Messing with a guy who got rich making duck calls.
Yeah. And keep life simple. Quit getting in everyone's business. We don't need your opinion on every matter screamed in my face or in anyone's face. We're on YouTube, and guess what you had the option to do?
Click it off.
Scroll. Yeah. Keep scrolling.
Yep.
If you see this title and you think, oh, well, that's something I definitely don't want to watch, don't watch it.
Yeah.
Don't watch it. Keep yourself happy. Keep yourself in the mojo. If you see my face and you want to punch me, don't watch this. unless you really want to get angry at something. But come on, people, take your life in your own hands here.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, if we would just leave words alone and leave kids alone,
half the problem, more than half the problem
be solved at that point. And I think that we have brought it to this point over the definition of words and the changing definition of words, and that just breaks my heart.
Changing the definition of words also probably the first sign of a collapsing society, but we can use that for another episode.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe next week. But all right, anyways, hey, we had a first half of education, second half of rage. That's what we've done here. So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Check us out. Appreciate all of you who are here. Please continue to pray for Walnut Grove, Wayne Street, and the United Methodist Church.
As a whole.
And the Global United Methodist Church. Pray for all the involved, because at the end of the day, we got to get over this, friends, because we're being like the world. Instead of changing the world, we're becoming the world. And that's again, your idea of collapsing society. That's it. When institutions that held us together are falling apart, how are we going to help anybody? So we got to get over this. Whatever side you're going to be on, let's get past
Pick it
this.
And let's go.
Yeah.
I don't care what side you're on. Let's just go. Exactly. Let's just go over this.
Let's go do ministry and try to pull people out of the disaster of this world. Let words mean what they mean and leave kids alone. You guys have a great week.